Lovely day. Lovely day. Good morning. Good Sunday morning, mass. Hello, morning. I think it really is just random and whether they decide to let me have you or you're not. I don't think it has anything to do with. Damn it. Just dropped some bowl into my cup of tea. Different. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing differently. What I did yesterday to get 30,000 views. The first video had 40 views. The second video, when I reset, had 30,000 plus. You know, because that's just a normal accomplishment for some random nobody with 2,200 following or subscribers. But I've been like making notes lately. Different things I've been wanting to talk about. They come up throughout the day. So I put them in the little note section so I can bring it up on here. And something I was thinking about yesterday. Wonder if I can find a 4-leaf clover. Anybody see one? I didn't see one. I did find a 5-leaf clover here once. It's right about here. But anyway, so I'm thinking about it last night. I'm watching this video about this couple who killed their 9-month-old son or 1-year-old son, something like that, less than 2. And, you know, I like watching interrogation videos. I like seeing how people are psychologically broken down. And I think it's just really fascinating to see how all of it works and see how people lie and just the whole process of it. But in this one, it was 2 people, you know, a parent killed their kid. So I'm wondering, like, I said it to my wife. I can't imagine there's any situation that could ever exist that I could be like, hey, let's kill a kid. And you'd be like, okay. Or, you know, I killed the kid, help me cover it up or something like that. So how strange is it that 2 people that are capable of murdering a child find each other? How does that even happen? What are the chances of that? I mean, it happens a lot. I'm sure it's not something that's ever brought up in a discussion or anything. Hey, if we ever have a kid and the kid is doing something, I don't like it, or we're this or that, you know, if I killed the kid, would you keep your mouth shut? I don't know how that actually would work out. But you know, that's what's happening there. Are these people finding each other? Like, is this part of that dysfunctional subconsciousness that dictates how we find each other? You know, I'm amazed by little things my wife does that reminds me of my mom. And it's not like she could have known that. You know, it's not like she knew my mom and was like, all right, I'm going to do this blueprint so I can be just like his mom. And it's not like I would have known that looking at her. Oh, she's going to act like my mom does in this situation or that situation, or do like little things like my mom does. You know, she makes the kids lunch. And I was looking at, and just even the way she lays it out is how my mom used to do it. And I know it's not commonplace because most of you don't feed your kids like we feed our kids. You know, our kids have never had McDonald's, at least not from us. You know, so it makes me wonder, like I think about that one all the time when I think about leaving my wife. I think about like, how could I find somebody else that uses doTERRA, that, you know, that like likes the same things I like in certain regards. It's just weird. So you have to wonder, like, how does that work? How do people, what's going on when we find each other? What sort of connections are being made on a subconscious level? And they, you know, yes, if you decide you want to kill the kid at one point, I'll be somebody to cover for you. Like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. My wife did something like that, I'd be the first to call the police. I love nothing more than my kids. And I'll do anything it takes for their safety. However, that being said, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If I find child exploitation materials on their phones, I'll call the police myself. You know, I'm not protecting that. But it just makes you wonder, like, you know, if you were to line up 10 girls and, all right, just pick one that you're going to hook up with and go on a date, and just based off of the energy, just based off of the look and the energy, you'd be surprised how many times you find like the exact same type of person, how many times you pick the same type of person. So that means there's something else going on when we're attracted to each other. Just like how, like, you know, rapists seemingly know how to pick the person who won't tell on them. There are plenty of people who will tell. You know, there are plenty of people who will say something, and then there are plenty of people who won't, who will internalize it, who will do whatever it takes to so that the rapist can get away with it. How do they know who that is? You know, I think we as humans, we are, like, I tend to not think we're, I don't know. I'd like to say I don't think we're special, but clearly earlier versions of us were capable of creating and doing insane things. Just insane. I just happened to get lost in this video before I got on here. This dude, this kid, 20-something kid, he's in Sri Lanka. And he said he found this remote place on the top of this mountain using Google Earth, and he doesn't see how he can get to it. There's no path. He's checked all the pathfinders and all that shit.com, and there's no path to it. So he's going to take the transportation as far as it'll take him till he gets to this one village where he can start walking along the train tracks to another village, and then he'll go up the mountain here, and then he'll eventually get to the top of this subs are real. My grandpa was a submarine. Sure he was. Submarines are real. Again, it's amazing how angry it makes people. How determined people are to talk, like, dude, I'm a submarine enthusiast. I wake up every Sunday morning before 9 o'clock. And I search for submarines. I'm always looking for new submarine content. Nobody says that. Yeah. Imagine it. Imagine being so arrogant you think you know stuff without looking into it at all. You know, the thing about the submarines is it's just like an exaggerated version of everything. You know, most of the time when it's a conspiracy or something like that, we didn't go to the moon. The earth isn't round. Chemtrails are a thing. Whatever the thing is, naysayers always come at you like you just sort of made this decision one day. Like, you know, there's nothing to it. I just sort of changed my mind one day. And I used to think like you do, but now I suddenly think like this. It's different. And I have no reason to think that way. Right? And it's really interesting how, like, that's the excuse they hide behind. Right? It really does all come down to arrogance. But that excuse is like people when it comes to the Bible, they'll always say shit. Like when you start quoting the Bible, when you start talking about the biblical history and what's going on and all this shit, they always say, well, have you even read the Bible? Have you even read it? And it's like, dude, nobody in Western society that doesn't believe in Jesus or doesn't do the religious Christianity thing, nobody does that because of lack of knowledge. It's not like there's this one passage or this one something that somebody just hasn't read yet, and when they read it, they go, oh, okay, now I believe it. I mean, I've tried that with the Bible. I've really tried, you know, I would assume with the way people talk about it and with the power it wields, that, you know, you would read it and you would get this sort of feeling. And instead you read it and it's just like, how I mean, more than likely you need an interpreter. And even then it's like, how does anybody believe this shit? It's so stupid. It really is stupid. And so the cop out is always, well, have you read it? Yeah, I've read lots of it. Haven't read the whole thing start to finish, I can admit that. But the parts that I have read, which is a large portion of it, hasn't made me want to read more. God healed my daughter. He saved her when she was about to die. How come he didn't save her from about to die? Why would God let your kid get to the about to die point before they would save them? I don't expect you to answer this. I expect you to sort of run away. It's a man-made story, exactly. Do people really think that the Bible just sort of like appeared, like flew out? He saved her though. Or are you just gonna double down on it? Like, I really want to hear from those people. God didn't let her what? Like this is such a you know, a heavy accusation, right? This is something where you're saying things were like the train is going down the track, your foot's stuck in the track, you've been yelling and screaming, help, help, you can't get your foot out. The train is getting closer and closer. Finally, you just give up, close your eyes and say, okay, it's going to happen when it happens. And the next thing you know, you hear the train going by, you open your eyes and you're off to the side somewhere, watching the train go by. That's a miracle. That's how you know, like, something unexplained. There's no other way to explain it other than God came down and was like, you. He's read lots of it live over the last decade. Exactly. This dude has been ignoring your comments. What does it matter? I should be paying attention to you because of what? Oh, especially the stupid shit you're making. or you're talking about, right? Who knows if these are new pedo phrases that you're just saying out of nowhere for no reason. Got to get those points. Got to get those act.il type points. But I'd love to know from the broad who says, you know, like you would think if she says, God saved my daughter, and I would be like, oh, well, elaborate. She'd be like, yes, let me please elaborate on this. Please, I can't wait to share my story, this amazing story about how the God that ignores the Palestinians and the Palestinian children being raped and tortured and starved to death and killed, while also ignoring the clergy constantly raping children, let my daughter get to death's door and then decided to save her. Let's hear what she has to say. It's truth. I prayed to my Lord and Savior. I humbled myself before him. Next day, the doctor gave us a call and tells us they found the medicine. So are you saying that's the first time you ever prayed? Why does your daughter need this experimental or this rare medicine to begin with? But I guarantee if you're this dumb, where you're like, oh, I prayed, then you had been praying. When your daughter first started showing signs of needing whatever medication this was, you had been praying. Every night that you went to sleep and your daughter was in the hospital or suffering or whatever, you prayed. But you're not going to count those times when God didn't answer your prayers, right? And really, how disgusting is it, right? Humans do these magnificent things. Humans find the medicine. Humans create the medicine. Humans build the structure. Humans, come up with the technology to do all these things. And yet, instead of giving the credit where it goes, you want to give credit to God. Experimental. She has a very rare condition called KDM5C. Okay, so again, why did God let her have that condition to begin with? Are you saying your life is better because of this? I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to, be rude or mean. Like, no. I feel really bad for you. That shit sucked. KDM5C is Lindsay is an X-linked gene that codes for a protein and regulates neurodevelopment. Oh, this sounds like it's really fucked up. Shit that happens to somebody in the womb kind of thing. So why would you think your kid this neurological disorder so that you would have to pray a bazillion times and then finally you think one time God was like, oh my God, I'm so sick of her praying and clogging up the line every day with her kids bullshit. Let me just fix this real quick. Yeah, seizures. That's horrible. So God literally watched your daughter have seizures, watched you watch her have seizures, Like God was there the whole time just eating his popcorn. Too bad that Kimberly broad hasn't prayed enough. She's about 300 prayers short. Let her fill up her own little personal prayer jar and maybe I'll help her daughter. But man, she has not been praying enough. Is that what you think happened? My life is better because of Jesus. When you see the friend that he is, you've made it. What? That's like craziness. You realize like how insane that sounds? I finally got my imaginary friend to talk back to me. And now my life is better because of it. And again, the arrogance, the flat out sheer arrogance it takes to believe that Jesus is having these conversations with you and he's your friend and all this shit. And yet the Christians in Palestine that are being genocided by God's chosen people, well, they must not be praying like you did, right? They must not have their eyes closed hard enough. Yeah, well, I'll go your imaginary friend talk because you're certifiably crazy. But at least you acknowledge it. These people want to believe that they're better than, that they are higher than thou because they, they have a fucking conversation with their head, I guess. Sky Daddy doesn't talk back. It doesn't. That's voices in your head. It does. Thinking a white man from the Middle East lives in the sky. Pokemon was created to go map the inside of buildings, the only place Google could not photograph. I believe it. Even if it wasn't created specifically for that, it's an unintended consequence. It sounds like you have a battle raging inside you. Isn't it funny how Christians always go to that there's something wrong with the person who's asking the questions that they don't ask and they can't answer? There must be a battle raging inside of you. Well, I mean, yeah, I really can't stand that me and my people are slaves of the J community using their religious nonsense to keep us dumb and quiet. If that's what you're talking about, yeah. The ones that testify that God speaks to them are treacherous. Your logic is faulty. Is it? The people you're judging don't align their life with the Bible, yet the Bible is congruent with reality. Where? Why do people say these dumb things? The only way that the Bible is congruent with reality is that the average everyday Christian, the average everyday American, believes themselves to be second tier compared to the Israelis. And we're okay with them stealing our money, and we're okay with them, sending our kids off to die for their shit. We're okay with them controlling our entire narrative, just like the Bible says. But other than that part, where is the Bible congruent with reality? I'd love to hear one example. It is better due to me used to being Wiccan, a satanic agnostic. And 7 years ago when my daughter was going through all that, I prayed and now I work through Christ. What kind of arrogant bullshit is that? So clearly, if you were a Wiccan, you wouldn't have been praying to Christian God. So you had to be a Christian to begin with. And more than likely, if you're American, you were raised that way. You went into Wiccan because obviously you saw that Christianity was fucking stupid and that they kept raping children, and you were like, why does this keep happening and nobody does anything? But, 7 years ago, what made you decide to pray to God? You believed a completely different narrative, and then you just decided to pray, and now you work through Christ? What kind of arrogant shit is that? Like, it's just, imagine the arrogance in thinking that your daughter is so fucking special, that it wasn't just a coincidence, it wasn't just the good work of humans. God, who gave her this disease to begin with, decided that you should finally get medicine. Why are you ignoring that part? Why did God give it to you to begin with? I never planned to be Christian. I'm stating what I say. I'm sorry I triggered you. You're so arrogant. You think I'm just talking to you. If you look at who created and paid for the app, it's not what happened. Need to pick. What's up with all the J-hate? They're the worst people in the world? It's a fucking disgusting, psychopathic, pedophilic cult that needs to be eliminated as soon as possible. Psychopathic, pedophilic, supremacist cult. We do what you do and present truth as we know it. No, you don't. If you presented truth, then you wouldn't be upset if people ask about it. And you'd be capable of making arguments for said truth. Fairy tales, like seriously, I stopped believing in God when I realized Santa wasn't real. You'd think. Stephen Hawking, the remote control car, Stephen Hawking. So obviously you believe what you're told. One of my favorite scientists. How many other scientists can you mention? He's one of your favorite scientists. One of my favorite scientists, she says. You got a whole list of scientists, your top 10 scientists that you can name off? He was once agnostic, but then on his deathbed, he asked to be saved. Did he? Is that what they did? How did he ask to be saved when he was on his deathbed and he wasn't in his magic chair anymore? You know, the magic chair that nobody else has? Stephen Hawking has had this magic chair that allows him to communicate like a normal person for decades. And nobody else gets it. That technology shouldn't be that expensive anymore. Been around for a long time. But to think like, what a brilliant way to do it, right? They literally create a remote control car. They call it Stephen Hawking, and they tell you that that's the smartest brain in the world. He's doing complex, all kinds of shit in that brain, and then he's like blinking his eyes in a way that puts those theories out into the world. I sure can't wait to hear her top 10 list of scientists. The book 1984 is also congruent with reality. No, it's not. 1984 happened a long time ago. But there's very, very little in that movie that you can say is congruent with reality. But notice how you're not answering my question. He said, many will come saying, Lord, Lord, and I will say, I never knew you. Okay. You don't have to choose Christianity. Why do you have such a hate for it? You know your soul is in turmoil. So this is somebody who just said they weren't a Christian. But now they're talking about my soul is in turmoil because I hate Christianity, the pedophile organization that's used to control the Goyim. Yeah, that's probably why. It probably has to do with them raping children all the time and it being a J control scheme to keep us stupid and distracted. So yeah, I absolutely hate it. And see, that's how you answer a question. Somebody asks you something and then you basically repeat the question back to them, but with an answer. You guys don't like to do that. You guys don't like to answer questions. Man wrote the Bible. I don't trust man. I personally believe in Father, Son, and Mother Earth. Based on what? In Revelations chapter 16, it states that the Euphrates River will dry up, and it has dried up. Yeah? That's it, huh? The Euphrates River, all the stuff that's in the Bible comes down to a naturally occurring thing that's probably happened multiple times throughout history. But that's your proof. This is why it's interesting to me how hard religious people have to like stretch and reach to be able to come to their conclusion. They're so desperate for any sort of proof, any sort of validation that the river dried up. It said the river dried up. Wow. It's fucking amazing. You know, it's really crazy how how desperate Christians have to be able to prove their stuff, to be able to have some sort of validation for what they think. By the way, if you're watching and you disagree, smash that dislike button and share it. You took too many, you dumb broad. Why do you have hate in your heart? Because I have the capacity for lots of love. You can't have love. If you don't have a good relationship with your hate, then how can you have a good relationship with your love? Your sense of hate, your sense of love. Hate is just a four-letter word to describe a huge range of emotions. Just like love is a four-letter word, and by word I mean click and whistle, that we've all agreed means this wide range of emotions. Are you trying to tell me I shouldn't hate pedophiles? Are you trying to tell me I shouldn't hate genocide? I shouldn't hate slavery? Like, what kind of imbecile are you? Oh, about Christian, they say the same about Christopher Hitchens. Don't know who this guy is. So this dumb guy is ranting about smart people. Yep, that's what it is. Nikola Tesla was a real genius. Says who? I don't believe in Tesla. I think Tesla is just a character they give us. Hawking explicitly stated his belief that there is no God and that no one created or directs the universe. Hawking didn't do shit. I'm guessing since he's in your head, he's just telling you whatever you want to hear. Never said you didn't have a sky daddy. Judging the sins of Isaac Newton, Louis Pasteur. Oh, these are her favorites. So she just looked up a list of scientists. Notice how long it took her to do that. So she has a favorite scientist. This is even better. She's so into science. She has a top 10 favorite scientists, and yet still believes in God. Interesting how you forgot to put your buddy Hawking on your list of top 10. Paul hated Christianity more than most of us before he converted and died for his beliefs. Bro, LOL, bro, you're, Y-O-U-R, a lame, ranting about people and things you will never change. What a sad life, says the person watching me and begging for my attention and doesn't know which you're to use. Jesus, like, look at how stupid Christians are. Instead of being able to engage in the conversation, you know, we're sitting here trying to discuss, you know, the multiple benefits that come from eating oranges, the difference between the peel and the fruit, how it grows, you know, what sort of different chemicals and stuff are inside the peel as opposed, you know, we're sitting here trying to break down oranges all we can. And these people keep walking up and going, oranges are delicious. Okay, we get you. Oranges are delicious, but can you contribute to the conversation even a little bit? Oranges are delicious. Oh, okay, but do you know why you think oranges are delicious? Like, can you compare them to something else? Oranges are delicious. It's just the same shit over and over again. No one who follows the majority faith in the U.S. should ever speak about people judging others. That's all you guys do. That's the only thing you do of late. Sure. Oh, people choose the reality they want to believe. Exactly. That's very true. Another pot addict. Another pot addict thinking he's smart. Well, again, if I'm so compromised, shouldn't you be able to do a better job? Jesus is king. Oranges are delicious. Now look, she's just typing nonsense. Francis Collins, the former head of the Human Genome Project and director, Collins is a devout evangelical Christian who converted from atheism. Yep, sure. Right? You're given narratives and you just believe them when they fit. Does it say why he converted? What was this, like, the thing is, you don't, like, when it comes to you are an atheist, you're an atheist because you see the absurdity of all of it. It would have to be something like monumental for an atheist to go, you know what? I suddenly believe in this one particular thing. And again, this is that arrogance that always gets skipped over. You know, if I ask Kimberly, why is she a Christian? She's not going to have any real answers. Especially, you know, it's so interesting to think like somebody who says that they used to be a Wiccan and they used to be agnostic. Okay, so what was it that made you believe in this one particular thing? Because I promise you didn't look into Islam. You didn't like, you know what, I'm going to pray to Allah for a little while and see if Allah gives my child the medicine necessary. Nope. I did it for 2 weeks, no medicine. So now I'm switching over to Christianity. But you can't debunk Islam, Scientology, Mormonism, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism. You can't debunk all these things. And you know, and when you came to Christianity, you couldn't debunk it. That's not how it works. You're just arrogant, and you don't like that part. Jesus, we're going to skip over a bunch of these comments because it's just a bunch of stupidity. Because I already said it. Yep. Well, we know if you say something once, then you can't say it again, right? Why did inventors like Edison try to suppress Tesla? Because Tesla would bring more affordable and cleaner way to generate energy. And Edison, yeah, again, I think Tesla is just so the thing that's always interesting to me about Tesla is the birth story. He's supposedly this peasant out in the middle of nowhere, and his mother, you know, they have a midwife, and there's a horrible storm happening, lightning, thunderstorm, and he's born, and the child, and the midwife is like, oh, this is a bad sign. Your child is going to be, you know, something bad. And his mother was like, no, he's going to do good things. Right? This is the 1850s or some shit. Who was writing down the conversation between the midwife and the mother? And it just fits the same narrative we're given, that this great character was you know, died broke. And what are you taking that for? Huh? Oh. You know, they died broke, and they died lonely, and you know, there was no family to carry on, and all. Like it's always interesting. And it always brings me back to Cornelius Drebbel. Why isn't Cornelius Drebbel considered, you know, one of the greatest men in history, or even known? Most of you, unless you've been on my feed, you have no idea who Cornelius Drebbel is. Oh, have you looked into the man-made Islam? Oh, I looked into the man-made Islam. Oh, you definitely know nothing about Islam. Why are you starting your stuff with O's? You're literally typing that out? You'll see, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall swear, blah, blah. Like, this is how stupid they are. As soon as the questions start getting difficult, they turn into this little child. You'll see. I have no evidence to prove that, but you'll see one day. One day there'll be evidence. The only stupid is staring at the screen. Aren't you looking at my screen, dumbass? Have you ever visited any submarines? Sure. I know that it's smart to call others stupid. You can debunk Islam by the Quran. Why are all three the Abrahamic religions? Why is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all lumped together as the Abrahamic religions? Do you know who Abraham is? Abraham is the main bad guy in the Bible. You know, the devil is not the bad guy in the Bible. The opposition in the Bible is actually the Jews. And it's you know, and really the whole Bible is Jewish. This is another one of those things that Christians don't like to acknowledge for some reason. But every story, every character, everything that happens in the Bible, including your Jesus, is Jewish. They talk about the Gentiles as a separate thing, like not us Gentiles, but those Gentiles. You just don't like that part, I guess. But somehow Christians have been tricked into believing that they, Christians, aren't their God's favorite. The bad guys from the Bible, the people who killed your only superhero and Christian God's only son, those people are Christian God's chosen favorite people. And you don't see anything wrong with that. Just one part of the Abrahamic religions. We are in a simulation, Occam's razor. Why is it that people are so quick to say a simulation and discount their own existence? You know, I mean, it's weird how people will jump at the idea of a simulation, but not at the idea of the reality TV show. That we are the ultimate reality TV show. How far away do you think we are from doing that? We, us, the 2025 people. How far do you think we are from building some sort of domed structure that the people inside don't know they're in and we film them all day? Oh, I love the people that just keep, again, like, do you not realize that every comment that you say that isn't addressing what's being said makes you look dumber? You guys need to stop talking to yourself. You guys need to put down fairy tales. You guys need to go outside and touch grass. It's not about touching grass. It's about organizing. It's about organizing and unifying. The Goyim need to unify and organize. That's what needs to happen. Because your only religious people would think the submarines aren't real. Because your only religious people would think that submarines aren't real. Not sure what you're talking about there. Yup. Oh, we have somebody whose name is Israel. Yuck. God, that would suck. I would absolutely change my name if my parents were that big of an asshole to name me Israel. What motherfucking parents. Like, you would think, again, like, why is this so difficult? So he's claiming that Jesus is evil and Satan is not. Where the fuck does this idiot come up with that shit? Like, seriously, this is what I mean. Christians are so detached from reality that they can't even have a simple conversation. They just bring up crazy, stupid, they make up whatever dumb arguments they need to make up so they can argue it. They can't argue what I'm saying, but they want to argue something, so they make up something they can argue. So he's saying Jesus is evil and Satan isn't? Duh. I love how they're stroking each other. You're doing good. Good job. Why do they blame a parent house? Meth. Yep, gotta love these meth blunts. It's weird how people just say what they feel without any evidence whatsoever. I think that's called conjecture. That's literally what religion is. That's literally what your belief in Jesus and all that other bullshit is. Yeah, but simulation refers to, like, us not being real. I believe I'm real. And reality-based TV show actually explains everything perfectly. Like, it all fits in with that narrative. You know, I guess you could say simulation is the same thing, but then that would discount our lives. Abraham is Isaac and Ishmael's father. Isaac is the chosen son. Ishmael was born and trusting God. And then it's because of I mean, again, this is just like repeating biblical shit doesn't prove biblical shit. You get that, right? My son's middle name is Israel. What's wrong with that? Your poor kid. He has a douchebag as a father. Israel is my great-grandfather. Yep. Again, he had stupid parents. Stupid, brainwashed parents. How many Afghanistans do you know of running around? How many Irans do you know? I did know Iran Barkley. I gotta say, there was the Iran Barkley guy. He was a boxer. But like, let's say somebody is named America, like America Ferrera or whatever. Everybody thinks that's such a dumbass name. But name yourself Israel and that's supposed to be something good. Realizing this life as a simulation should be indicative of there being a real afterlife. Sure. Eric wants to watch me take a shower, apparently. And he's fantasizing about smelling me. Because again, he said something stupid and it was pointed out to him. And instead of addressing what he said that was stupid, he instantly goes into childish crybaby mode. Oh yeah, well you're smelly and you're stupid and you should brush your teeth and I don't like you. Why are you saying things that I don't like? Yep. Yep, it's female and telling her she ain't shit. Yep, that's what I do all the time. Let me go do that right now. God damn it, it's been a while since I did it, so thanks for the reminder. Hey, sweetheart.
What?
You ain't shit.
I eat shit?
You ain't shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I like yelling at you and telling you you ain't shit. So you ain't shit.
Oh.
Take that. Ah, there we go. She's fucking crying now. That's how I like it. Yeah. When confronted and can't debate, start with the personal insults. It's what they do. I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist. Sure you are. He won't respond. Dude, you're the person I responded to that said, so you said Jesus is evil and Satan isn't. Remember? That's what got you crying in the first place? You can't prove your religion. No one ever has. Notice he won't read my responses. I'm supposed to read your... You smell. I can smell you through the phone. I want to watch you take a shower. I did read those responses. So you just proved my point. People are allowed to name their kids whatever. Israel is a much better name than hashtag William Brock or Derek. No, Israel represents genocide. Israel represents pedophilia and slavery. No, it's not. It's a horrible... It's a horrible name and association. It's just awful. It's literally as bad as it gets. Lay off the weed. You clearly don't remember what you said. Yeah, that's what it is. 6,000 years of writing shit down and no one has ever proven a religion. Well, the reality is, I don't think anything close to 6,000 years is what we have an accurate history of. Personally, I think Judaism, I think all of these things, these Abrahamic control schemes were created shortly after the last reset. And their ChatGPT history is just that. It's just something that was created to be a historical narrative. And because they were lazy and relatively stupid. I mean, we are talking about the inbred J people. They didn't put enough into the chat GPT to create enough variation so that the stories don't run together and have all the same names and all that shit. There's an old man in the sky watching over us. Exactly. Just another manic Sunday. It's manic, yep. So the millions of Jays that have had horrible things happen is supposedly to take a back seat. So the millions of Jays that have had horrible things happen is supposed to take a back seat. What are you talking about? I love when people start just saying dumb shit. What bad things have happened to them? Oh, we have somebody flying the pedo flag. You get to go. Don't fly the pedo flag. You'll be removed. Dude, you sound ridiculous. Yes, there's no God, blah, blah, blah. You seem a little confused. Yep. Mythology. Hey, you've been reading mine and skipped over one. I agree with you. Well played. I don't need people to agree with me. You're saying someone is a douchebag because they named their kid Israel. Yes, absolutely. What a horrible thing to do. If you named your kid piece of shit, you named your kid genocide, you named your kid slavery, you named your kid pedophilia, people would have an issue with it. Your parents never taught you how to bathe. Yeah, that's what it is. What reset? Yeah, get to looking. I bet you this guy doesn't even know his father. Like, that's a rip. Like, if that was the case, like, that would be some sort of burn. Ha, you don't know your dad. Gotcha. Sumerian tablets. Yeah, nonsense. The whole Sumerian, Nibiru, Anunnaki, all that shit literally comes from a J. Zechariah Sitchin, a J. Probably shouldn't believe it. I've literally been on a submarine, yeah. Look at how desperate they are. They start putting out their fantasies, you know. Jay Money, you cuddle with your uncle. Like, this is what this person's fantasy life is now bleeding into the feed. And this is the thing, like this, you always let these people talk because they'll out themselves. The things that they start saying, you know, that the way their brains think, a lot of times you're like, Jesus, who comes up with that kind of shit? These sick weirdos do. These J pedos do. Maybe things were messed up back in the most effective way to control people's anger. Wait, so Jay's finally doing what has been done to them for the last 4,000. Yep, they've had it done to them. Like, this is the dumbass shit that we're talking about. This guy literally knows nothing about any of it, yet he's gonna sit here and talk like he does. It's been done to them for 4,000 to 6,000 years. Oh yeah, has it? Do you guys know that Hebrew is the youngest language on the planet? Hebrew was created in the late 1800s, 1890s, early 1900s by a guy called Eliezer ben Yehuda. It was invented. They say it was revived, but I'm going to go with invented. It's the youngest language on the planet. Here, let's show how stupid I am, right? Eliezer ben Yehuda. So, because I'm making it up, right? Eliezer ben Yehuda. That's this guy. Okay. Oh, wait. Before we go any further, because I can already hear the cop-outs. You're using Wikipedia. Well, here is Naftali Bennett in 2010. He's a future Israeli prime minister. Currently, he's a former Israeli prime minister. At the time of this recording, he was an Israeli agent, high-level Israeli agent, and he's talking to the IsraelNationalNews.com. Okay.
Moetzet Yesh, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature. I came here to learn.
Okay, so that is the Prime Minister of Israel saying that they control the #1 source of information in the world. And they put effort into teaching the editors of Wikipedia how to do their jobs, that they were already the #1 source in the world. Israel taught them how to do it so that it has a balanced, and so it's balanced and Zionist in nature. I don't know how else, like imagine if that was China, Russia, whoever. I don't know what other proof you would need. But here, listen to this. No, I'm just calling you out. You said the Jays are the opposition. I absolutely did. Then you said Satan is not the bad guy. In the Bible, Satan is not the bad guy. The Jays are. And then you're coughing away like a crackhead. See, this is, what do you, like, this is the best you can come up with. You don't remember what you said. I reminded you. You can rewind. Can I rewind it? Crying about religion on YouTube must be the most pathetic thing I've ever seen, so I'm enjoying it. So, you are essentially watching the most pathetic thing you've ever seen on YouTube and making fun of and trying to talk shit to that thing for almost an hour now. And it's because you're awesome and I'm not. Gotcha. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Christianity is a joke. Okay. Israel is really smart. You want a pager? Fuck no. He said Jays are the opposition in the Bible. They are. He said Satan is not the bad guy in the Bible. Then he said Jesus is a Jew. Which part of that's not true? So I said, oh, great. I guess Jesus is bad and Satan is good. So you said that, not me. That's what you just admitted to, right? You said that. That was your conclusion because you can't actually come up with anything real. Should walk around the back of their parents' house crying about people's names. Yep, that's what they do. No, what they should do is they should find the person talking about killing pedos and ending the slavery and the genocide, and then talk shit to them in this stupid, cowardly manner. That's what makes them real good people. You should call them out on a live stream and say they're dumb for naming their kid that, but you can agree with genocide. Right? If you want to, can do nothing. If you want to, can do anything you want. No, you can't. What is the title of this live stream? As a show, it's called Submarines Aren't Real. This particular part is the Sunday morning mass hole, world famous. But what does it matter? Let's just say we were absolutely talking about submarines at one point, but then we got onto this conversation. Who are you to tell us we should go back to talking about whatever? Why wouldn't you just engage in the conversation? Or if you can't, shut up and learn or leave. Oh, Kimberly's back. Kimberly, who can clearly answer a question, won't answer the simplest question. What was it that made you decide Christianity was real? Where did that come from? You say you used to be a Wiccan and an agnostic. So what facilitated the change? But this guy is all over the place, does not articulate the point like an adult should, he needs to take a bath. This guy really wants to watch me take a shower, take a bath. Like his fantasies are coming through hardcore. Long live Israel. Fuck everything Israel. Everything Israel is the worst. You know? Israel is the problem on the planet. So back to what I was saying earlier. Look at they've just completely shut this shit down. Might have to reset. Oh look, we have a pedophile here. Somebody's saying Trump. We have a Trump supporter. Trump support means you're probably a pedophile. Probably have some shit on your phone you don't want people seeing. Some folders that you don't like people looking at. You definitely don't want people looking at your search history, do you there, Trump supporter? No, Israel is the worst. And it will be removed. We will be, you know, it will just happen naturally. So those of you who know, don't, you know, whatever, but I'm running for president in 2028. And I'm running on the platform that, other than making pedophilia a punishable by death offense, one of the first things we're going to do is outlaw the cult, you know, the J cult. You can no longer be in the United States and belong to that cult. You are more than welcome to denounce the cult and stay and live a good life, and everybody, you know, works together to make the world a better place. You are more than, I encourage you to do that. But if you don't want to denounce the cult, well then the last bit of money that you get from the United States is your ticket to Israel. And we'll give you guys Israel. We'll actually come in and remove all the Palestinians, say, look, you know, we're really sorry, but we're gonna put you up in the United States. You're gonna get a nice little spot. And if the land ever opens up, you'll have the guaranteed first ticket back to Palestine to be able to reestablish your land and whatever. But anybody who's a cult member is getting shipped to Israel. You realize there are anti-Zionist Jays, right? Jays who don't think Israel should exist. Yeah, but those Jays still call me a goyim. Those Jays still believe that they are born supreme and the rest of us are goyim, are cattle, are nothing more than trees and cats and dogs and benches and chairs and beds and, you know, objects here to service them. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. I would just wear slandering someone. Sure. Yeah. Right, like, so weird that you think that, like, making, like, if I didn't know who my father was, you think that's, like, this is your typical white guy, right? This is your average white guy, racist, you know, little dick, short guy, probably balding. This is how they think. And they always put themselves as the victims and all the way, but they're the ones that are willing to scrape the bottom of the barrel. I wouldn't say it if it's not true. Well, I know who my father is, so I guess you just proved yourself wrong, right? I'm a J who's an anti-Zionist, and I don't think that. Well, then you're not a real J, are you? Let's talk about what your shit says. And the thing is too, like, I don't subscribe to this idea that, like, you could be like, oh, well, I'm a NAMBLA member. I don't actually partake in any of the man-boy love, but I'm still a member of the group. Like, that doesn't work that way. Matitza Bapé. The fact that you guys, you might say, well, I'm anti-Zionist. Are you anti-Matitza Bapé? Do you actively speak out against it? Trump, yep. I mean, I love when the Trump supporters come on because you flat out call them a pedo, they don't deny it, and they can't give you any good reason why they're a Trump supporter. I think you got a bug on an upper part of your left eyebrow, yep. I'm very tempted to put your address, but for legal reasons. See, again, look at this desperation, right? So instead of being able to engage in any sort of conversation, this weird little goofy pedo is trying to threaten all these other. Oh, I'm gonna post her. Like, who gives a fuck? What all you're doing is proving me right. You're clearly getting upset about what's being said to you, and oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. It's so fucking dumb. Oh yeah, because I'm lying about Hebrew, right? Eliezer ben Yehuda, born Eliezer Yitzhak Perlman, January 7th, 1858 to December 16th, 1922, was a Russian Jewish linguist, lexicographer, and journalist who immigrated to Jerusalem in 1881 when the Ottoman Empire ruled it. He is renowned as the lexicographer of the first Hebrew dictionary and also as the editor of the Jerusalem-based, who gives a fuck, one of the first Hebrew newspapers published in Palestine. Ben Yehuda was the primary driving force behind the revival of the Hebrew language. That's how they cover it. They say, oh, it's a revival. It's a revival. Oh my God, Wikipedia is not okay. Wikipedia is not an okay source. Like, this is where desperation comes from. Well, where should we look there, sweet tits? If this page, again, let's just do it one more time just to prove the point. I mean, I'm sure this dumbass doesn't know who Naftali Bennett is, but this is the IsraelNationalNews.com.
In conjunction with My Israel, has arranged instruction day for wiki editors. The goal.
Okay, so he's saying Israel, this group of high-level Israeli operatives, agents, has organized an instruction day for Wikipedia, which was the #1 source of information in the world at the time. Apparently, they didn't know how to edit their own shit.
Of the day is to
the goal of the
teach
day.
people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world.
They're going to teach the editors of Wikipedia how to edit in Wikipedia, because apparently they don't know how to.
As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla...
And just in case you're not understanding exactly what he's talking about, he's giving you an example that if somebody searches the Gaza flotilla, which was the 2010 version of Greta Thunberg, but worse, where Israel commandeered a group of ships trying to bring supplies into Gaza. And on one of the ships, because the people resisted, the Israelis killed 9 people, 6 of which were later confirmed to be God damn it. I can't think of the fucking word, but where somebody is on their knees and they're shot in the head. God, I can't believe I can't think of this word right now. 6 of the 9 were killed in this fashion. You know, it'd been, I can't believe I can't think of this word right now. And the reason I know that is because I searched on Wikipedia. I actually looked it up. If he says, for example, if somebody searches the Gaza flotilla, so that's what I did. And what this video is telling you is that the Israelis control what this says. You know, the Israelis control, what the fuck? It messed up, so we'll watch it again. IsraelNationalNews.com.
Moetzet Yesh, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged Instruction Day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
I mean, I just don't know. You know, the people that cry about Wikipedia being used, I sure don't think Wikipedia is 100% true, but I do know, without a shadow of a doubt, that the information presented is what Israel wants us to know. It might not be 100% true, but it's the truth that Israel wants us to know. And that's literally what he says. Like, it would be really sweet if one of these guys could actually engage in this particular argument, right? They love to talk shit, but when evidence is presented to them that counters their argument, they just start, you know, saying all kinds of dumb shit, right? Like, it's so fucking strange that how this works, like how, and it explains why, you know, why things are the way they are, why your average person is still a Christian, why there's a genocide taking place right now and we're just watching, why Trump is still in office. Imagine if you worked at McDonald's, at Walmart, at the third thing. You know, you always got to give a 3. So at the law firm. And the you know, the manager, the top person at the store is subtly embroiled in, you know, what is turning out to be, at the very least, he covered for pedophiles. Right? At the very, very least, he lied and covered up his association with pedophiles. And that's only if you're a desperate fool do you think that that's the extent of his guilt. Because if you know, you just look at his history, well, there's just his history alone. But then there's the things that he said, like when he was asked flat out, do you have an age limit? They were talking about him banging 24-year-olds as a 60-year-old man, and he was bragging that he has no problem, or he would have no problem if he weren't married to Melania. And Robin asked him, well, do you have a limit? And he says, no. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to get caught fooling around with a 12-year-old like, what's his name? When somebody asks you about Ghislaine Maxwell, you don't go, well, I wish her well. You know, she's involved in some stuff, but I wish her well. You don't say shit like that. You don't brag about how you owned the Miss Teen USA pageant so you could just go into the dressing room where nobody else could so you could inspect things. These aren't things that normal non-pedos say. You know, it's very, very obvious what's happening here. You know, Trump and Epstein, Trumpstein is the greatest distraction. Because really, at the end of the day, how do you prove any of it? Unless you have like videos of the kids being raped by that person, there's no definitive proof. So instead, it's all just up in the air and this bullshit. And even when they show us, where they say they show us something, oh, this is going to be definitive. Here's some videos. This will show you without a shadow of a doubt. That shit's fucked up. That shit there's an edit. literally not just a missing minute, but that minute happens and the camera angle changes. This is a camera that's in a secured housing, so no prisoners can get to it. So it can survive, if there was some sort of riot or something, and the prisoners would have a really hard time getting at that camera because they would want to be able to still see what's going on. And yet somehow the angle changes slightly. That's not real. That doesn't fit. That doesn't make sense. And yet this is the kind of bullshit that they give us. So when I'm sitting here reading to you from Wikipedia, again, what they want us to know. The future at the time in 2010 when that was recorded, and currently former Prime Minister of Israel, high-ranking agent, flat out tells you that they control Wikipedia. And if you're dumb enough to think anybody can edit Wikipedia, again, anybody can suggest an edit on some of the pages. Most of the pages having to do with shit like AIPAC, Israel-U.S. relations, memorandums of understanding, things like that. Things that, again, I'm sure the vast majority of you know nothing about. These pages are completely locked. There is no editing these pages. So that takes away like most of your argument. But then for those that insist that anybody can edit, if anybody could just edit Wikipedia, that would be disastrous for Wikipedia. Somebody could just go to an entry, click edit, click save all, click delete, and then click save. And they could just continue doing that on page after page, just destroying Wikipedia, if that was in fact the case. Instead, you can make a suggestion that is then sent to the Wikipedia editors that Naftali Bennett and Israel taught how to edit so that it would have a balanced, so it would be balanced and Zionist in nature. So if your edit is balanced and Zionist in nature, well then they might allow it to exist. But for the most part, your edit just gets ignored. It doesn't show up. So anybody that's hiding behind Wikipedia is not an okay source. They're just desperate. It's because they can't make any reasonable arguments. If Wikipedia wasn't a reasonable source, then just debunk what's being said. Seems pretty simple. So Ben Yehuda was the primary driving force behind the revival of the Hebrew language. This all-important ancient language supposedly disappeared for a little while. Why? How? And then when it was revived, think about all the things that they tell you. There's like these ancient Hebrew scrolls, ancient Hebrew manuscripts, ancient Hebrew engravings, ancient Hebrew this, that, and the other, right? So you would think, funny how there is no ancient Hebrew dictionary. The one thing they didn't do is make a dictionary. But this guy, Eliezer Yitzhak Perlman, was born in Lushki in the blah blah government of the Russian Empire, now Vitebsk Oblast, Belarus, to Yehuda Lieb and Tziporia Perlman, who were Chabad Hasidim, I don't know. His native language was Yiddish. He attended a Jewish elementary school, a cheder, where he studied Hebrew and the Hebrew Bible from the age of 3, as was customary among the Jews of Western Europe. So right there, right? He studied Hebrew and the Hebrew Bible. So why would there need to be a revival of the language if it was being studied by children? It's kind of confusing, right? Let's see what it says. By the age of 12, he had read large portions of the Torah, Mishnah, and the Talmud. Sure he had. His mother and uncle hoped he would become a rabbi and sent him to yeshiva. 12 years old, back in 1860 something. Let's see, born in 1858, so age 12. It's 1870. He's sending him off, or their parents are sending them off. There he was exposed to the Hebrew of the Jewish Enlightenment, which included some secular writings. Later he learned French, German, and Russian. Man, this is incredible. And was sent to Dunaburg for further education. He was sent there. I love how so many stories in the 1800s and earlier involve people traveling all over Europe and shit, like it was just no big deal. How were they traveling so far back in the day? Think of what you grew up thinking, right? You grew up thinking that people, before we had transportation and roads and, anything other than horses and carriages, people would live within like a 30-mile radius of their, where they were born. When the people supposedly braved the journey and went across the United States, it took them forever by horse and wagon and trains. And yet back in the 1870s and shit, you could just travel all over Europe, no problem. Reading the Hebrew language newspaper, Ha-Shaharha. So there's a Hebrew language newspaper. Well, that's weird. He became acquainted with the early movement of Zionism. Upon graduation in 1877, Ben Yehuda went to Paris for 4 years. Now he's in Paris. Again, you just traveled to these places and you just had money and everything was just how it was. While there, he studied various subjects at the Sorbonne University, including history and politics of the Middle East. So in 1877, the universities of Paris had a really good history and politics in the Middle East program. I mean, it's something that just totally gets overlooked, but how did books get not only printed but distributed back in the day? Who created the history and politics in the Middle East lesson plan back in 1877? In the university that's existed for 1,000 years prior to. Sorbonne University. The institution's legacy reaches back to the Middle Ages in 1257 when Sorbonne College was established. Yep, because in the 1200s, that's what we were capable of building. Yep, more of that good stuff. Eric has a pedo supporter hat. Of course he does. He's a pedo supporter. All that engineering that we were just capable of doing back in the day. Perfect. Perfect engineering that lasts forever, that doesn't need to be heated or air conditioned. Anything. Look at that's as tall as it is, next to a giant skyscraper. Yeah, they just built all that. I mean, this is just the entranceway to the hospital, supposedly. Obviously, that shit was added later. But still, they just, yeah. Yeah, look at all, look at all that. Just normal shit. Look at all that design above the windows and shit. Yep, we just did that. All those archways and shit. Oh yeah, I mean, of course. Who can't build that? Seriously. Any of you could build that if you wanted to, couldn't you? The big giant room that supports itself doesn't have supports down the middle. Gotcha. It was in Paris that he met a Jew from Jerusalem who spoke Hebrew with him. It was this conversation that convinced him that the revival of Hebrew as a language of a nation was feasible. What are you talking about? Like, it just doesn't make sense. How are you going to revive a language that is clearly not dead if people are speaking it? If there's all this stuff that you were studying, and like, how does this make sense? In 1881, Ben Yehuda joined the first Aliyah and immigrated to the Muda Saraphite of Jerusalem, then ruled by the Ottoman Empire, and settled in Jerusalem. He just did. He found a job teaching at the school of the Alliance Israelite Universale. Motivated by the surrounding ideals of renovation and rejection of the diaspora lifestyle, Ben Yehuda set out to develop a new language that could replace Yiddish and other regional dialects as a means of everyday communication between Jews who moved to Palestine from various regions of the world. Wait, I thought Palestine didn't exist. Your buddy Charlie Kirk. I don't think there's an Israel, or I don't think there's a Palestine. That place doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about. That place is called Judea and Samaria. Charlie Kirk is such a fucking idiot. He's such a pompous windbag who doesn't say much but says a lot. You know. And he's good at what he does, but he's an idiot. Ben Yehuda regarded Hebrew and Zionism as symbiotic, writing, "The Hebrew language can live only if we revive the nation and return it to the fatherland." That sounds pretty... Like, if anybody else says shit like that, we're like, oh, that's supremacy. How dare somebody say stuff like that? But when they say it, it makes it okay. What's up, Matt? Good morning. You're late. I've been seeing way more videos speaking out against bad guys on Facebook. Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? Being somebody that's done it for such a long time and having been the pariah for such a long time, to now see how the shift is changing, like it's happening. Everything I said would happen, I thought would happen, it's happening. The only part that doesn't make much sense is, other than, I can make sense of it, but I would assume there would be lots of people who came across my feed over the years and was like, this guy's crazy. And now they're seeing what's happening and they're like, holy shit, that guy was talking about it, but they can't find me. You, somebody who knows to look, somebody who has their shit all set up so that, they get the notifications and all that. You've personally experienced how difficult it is to find me, and you're trying. Imagine if you're one of those people who, again, it was a while ago, and now you're like, oh shit. I've actually had somebody that I reached out to, a friend from a yesteryear that I reached out to, and she was like, holy shit, I've been trying to find you for such a long time. I kept looking you up and you wouldn't show up anywhere. It was a couple of people. We were looking for you. How long have you had this page? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I'm here. I've been here. But they make me really hard to find. To accomplish the task, gee, I wonder why. Ben Yehuda insisted with the Committee of the Hebrew Language that, to quote the committee records, quote, in order to supplement the deficiencies of the Hebrew language, the committee coins words according to the rules of grammar and linguistic analogy from Semitic roots, Aramaic and especially Arabic roots, which is why when you write something out in Hebrew and you hold it up to a mirror, it looks like Arabic. But why would they need to use Arabic to revive the language that so many people already spoke and was so well documented with all the historical records and scrolls and, you know, all that shit? Something isn't right about this narrative, right? Something, like, the narrative contradicts itself. And this is the part that, like, you guys just don't want to address. In 1903, along with many members of the second Aliyah, supported in 1903, Ben Yehuda, along with many members of the second Aliyah, supported Theodore Herzl's Uganda scheme proposal, which is something none of you have ever heard about. What's up, duty? Good morning to you. Good morning to you.
The only thing I heard last night was you taking cow off me.
That was this morning. The Uganda scheme was a proposal by British colonial secretary Joseph Chamberlain to create a Jewish homeland in a portion of British East Africa. It was presented at the 6th World Zionist Congress in Basel in 1903 by Theodor Herzl, the founder of the modern Zionist movement, who saw as a temporary refuge for Jews to escape rising anti-Semitism in Europe. The proposal faced opposition from both within the Zionist movement and from the British colony. Did you guys know that? This is always great, right? So, I guess we'll read this one. The British were involved in the scramble for East Africa to safeguard a range of British interests, such as commercial superiority, the crusade against the East African slave trade, apprehension over the control of territory that served as a route to India, and rivalry with the German and French governments. They opted to exercise indirect control over East Africa by establishing the Imperial British East Africa Company, IBEA, funded by William McKinnon in 1888. And led chiefly by Frederick Lugard and George Wilson and other imperial officers of the expeditions. Despite significant investments, the Imperial British East Africa Company, IBEA, began to fail by mid-1895. Poor infrastructure, financial instability, huge debts, and inadequate management led to this downfall. As a result, the British government proclaimed the Protectorate, and its administration was transferred to the Foreign Office. With the aim of exploiting the commercial potential of the interior regions, the British built the Uganda Railway, which ended up costing taxpayers a total of $5,244,000 back then. Unfortunately, the return on investment from the railway was not as substantial as anticipated. This shortfall, combined with the Anglo-Boer War in South Africa, sparked growing unease with the Foreign Office. Immigration to the Protectorate was viewed as a potential solution to the mounting debt. In summary, the British had the following motive for offering the Protectorate to the Zionists. Think about anybody else, just the government bending over backwards and doing all of this for any other group of people. And yet, for what is arguably one of the most supremacist and brutal, just awful groups in the world, that gets the approval. That's the one group that gets catered to. And remember, currently they make up 0.183% of the world's population, between 2 and 3% of the US population. So we're talking about one of the smallest group, and back then it was a lot less. One of the smallest, most separatist, most supremacist groups on the planet is getting catered to by the British monarchy, and essentially, you know, Africa as well. Number one, to protect British workers, there was a desire to control the influx of Jewish refugees to the United Kingdom after the pogroms in Eastern Europe. So why would British workers need protection from these refugees? In any other situation, it's because the refugees were violent rapists, you know, trying to impregnate the women like Tommy Robinson's bitch ass says. Tommy Robinson is such a piece of shit, and I'm glad I never fell for his nonsense. To me, it always seemed incredibly, you know, his agenda seemed pretty clear. He was trying to get people to focus on the Muslims, not the monarchy that has been known to be raping children forever. No, pay attention to this group of Muslim groomers who are trying to rape women and impregnate them like Muslims don't believe in. Rape white women and impregnate them, and like just the dumbest shit, but it was spreading like crazy. But you have to ask yourself, what protection did they need? And from the pogroms, from the expulsion. You know, they've been expelled from 109 countries in the last 1,000 years, according to the narrative. And yet nobody ever talks about why. Could it have to do with Matitza Buffet? You know? Because that's what it seems like. If you actually look into the history of it, it really does come down to the circumcision ritual being one of the main catalysts for not accepting, you know, their rituals, their religious nonsense. That's a huge part of it. Another big part is the whole Passover killing of children, and, you know, all that other shit that's associated. They're just violent, mean, supremacist people. And there's a reason why they've been kicked out of every country, but that part never gets focused on. Right? Oh, Eric's dumb, man. I wouldn't waste my time with Eric. Obviously, I'm not. Number two, the Uganda Railway constructed with British taxpayers' money needed to generate a return on investment to reduce the deficit. And the Zionists could bring money and people into the protectorate. Number three, gaining Jewish support was considered crucial for post-Boer war policies in South Africa. Again, why would appeasing 0.183% of the world's population matter to anyone? Oh, wow, okay. Watch out, close the door. Okay. Yelling at my wife. Close the fucking door. There's a wasp trying to get in the house, but never mind that. Number four, there was genuine concern for the welfare of Jews in Europe after the Kishinev pogrom. I mean, it's just stupid. So there's genuine concern for their well-being while also needing protection from them. How does that work? So here, this is where it gets really interesting, right? Now remember, you've never heard of this. This seems like something that would be a big part of the history that you would have at least heard of something about, but you've never heard anything about this. It gets better, right? Joseph Chamberlain and Theodore Herzl were acquainted through the Rothschild brothers. What a coincidence. What a goddamn coincidence. By the way, if you're watching, like, share, and sub. Helps out. If you hate what I'm saying, then make sure you smash that dislike button. Smash it now. Smashy, smashy. Smash that dislike button. They were acquainted through the Rothschild brothers. Initially, Herzl proposed a plan to the colonial secretary for Jewish settlement in Cyprus, which is being overtaken as we speak, the Sinai Peninsula, or El Arish on Sinai's coast. However, Chamberlain deemed Herzl's proposal impractical, since these territories were either inhabited or not under British control. Nevertheless, he agreed to discuss the El Arish plan with Lord Lansdowne, the foreign secretary, believing it could gain the support of world Jewry for Britain. Chamberlain left London in December 1902 on tour to tour South Africa and stopped in Mombasa before continuing to South Africa. Like, I get that that sounds nice, right? I get that that sounds like there's details. Look, it can't be false because there's details and shit like that. But am I the only one who wonders how they were facilitating a tour of Africa in 1902? What infrastructure existed in Africa to facilitate some, rich entitled brat to be traveling around Africa? What are we even talking about here? I would imagine doing a tour of Africa is difficult today. I can't imagine how much more difficult it had to be. Ooh. All the way back down. Look at that. Just right out in the middle of shit. See that motherfucker? Yuck. Yuck. That's Yuck. Move, B. I'm so glad my wife didn't walk through that. She would have been freaked out. Think about it, man. Think about, am I far off here? Imagine if I was telling you, I was trying to convince you of something. And I was like, yeah, and in 1902, they toured all of Africa. And you'd be like, bullshit, how did they tour Africa in 1902? What vehicles were they using? What infrastructure were they traveling on? Isn't Africa a bunch of jungle for the most part? Point. And to get people to come and actually, seriously, to think that the best clickbait I could come up with was submarines. Do you get how stupid that is? How many times in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year do you have really in-depth conversations about submarines? Ever. How ever do you have conversations about submarines? I guarantee it's you've probably had like, you know, 2 conversations about submarines in your life, and one of which was about, you know, the hunt for Red October. Nobody cares about submarines. What a terrible clickbait title to come up with. But apparently, you know, I hit a gold mine there. I had no idea how many submarine enthusiasts there were out there. Do you realize how fucking stupid that is? What a stupid crybaby cop-out it is to focus on shit like that when I'm literally talking about something that's much bigger than me. You want to talk about me. I'm talking about a big picture kind of thing. And instead of, because again, you have no fucking, you have nothing. You have nothing in your world that makes you believe any of this shit is real. You just believe it because you want to. And you know, it's just so interesting to see how desperate people are to, you know, account for their stupidity, but not realistically. Like, again, nobody has done, and nobody knows more about submarines than I do. On here, none of you. None of you have looked into submarines, and you can sit here and have a reasonable debate on it. But even still, why would you want to talk about that? We're talking about something so much more important right now. And instead of being able to even contribute to the conversation that's being had, you want to change the subject so you can just change the subject again when it does go into that discussion. It's really it's really weird. You guys have to excuse me for just 1 second. If it ends, then I'll just start a new one. But just hang on. Let's see. That works. All right, still working. Cool. Let's see. After a warm welcome, white British settlers in the region presented their grievances to the colonial secretary about the Foreign Office's failure to attract a significant number of hardworking settlers to the area, hindering the profitability of the railway. So basically, this would have succeeded if the Jays weren't such stereotypically lazy people. But because they're so lazy, they couldn't get it to, it wouldn't work out. They were given this whole, you know, potentially paradise area, and because they were too lazy to farm, and because they were so far away, they couldn't easily bring in supplies, easily bring in workers and whatnot. You know, and apparently they couldn't conquer black people as easily. Their whole thing fell apart. How crazy is that? Oh, I can show you plenty of ass hair, and I'm sure you'd like that. Additionally, during the journey on the Uganda Railway through what is described as the white man country in East Africa, modern Kenya, Chamberlain's opinion on the suitability of the tropical climate for Europeans changed. While on the trip, Chamberlain thought that this, quote, would be just the country for Dr. Herzl, and even proposed the idea of a Jewish homeland in East Africa to Dr. Herzl, but did not pursue it further, assuming Herzl's interest would lie only in Palestine or nearby. I mean, it's just fucking stupid. It's just stupid. And just think, like, because you can't engage in this conversation because I'm talking about a reality that you don't even know exists, you're going to start trying to make jokes out of Asperger's and autism. Like, that's who you are? That's how pathetic you are. I get it. Like, if you could say anything, obviously, if you're gonna go to that depth, you're gonna scrape the bottom of the barrel like that to be able to make a response. Like, that's how desperate you are to just have a response. You know, that means if you had something better than that to respond with, you would. Especially if that better thing could debunk what I'm saying or make me look bad in some sort of way. This is almost better than people being here and agreeing with me, because you know their set purpose is to try to, you know, disrupt, you know, distract from what's going on. And the fact that this is the only shit they can continuously come up with, like, that's really telling. You know, believe me, if they could come up with anything better, they would. They don't like being, you know, made to look really stupid. Nobody does. But this is the very best that they can come up with, because I'm not wrong about anything I'm talking about. I mean, at this point, I'm literally reading you what they want us to know, what Israel wants us to know. And to think that, like, you know, what could you even say? What argument could you even begin to make? You couldn't. There's literally nothing you can say, because there's nothing I'm getting wrong, or this is. You know, this is what we are supposed to know. If somebody were to say, hey, I need a report on this, you would have to, you know, just change the order around maybe a little bit, or use some different words, but just regurgitate this and you'd get a good grade. You know, this isn't any sort of conspiracy theory. This is what they want us to know. So it's interesting that you don't know, but I didn't know anything about it until I stumbled across it one day. One day looking up Eliezer Ben Yehuda, reading down it and being like, wait, what is this Uganda proposal bullshit? It really is fucking nuts, man. Initially, Herzl was not interested in the offer of a Jewish homeland in East Africa. Somebody is saying to this one man, we are going to give you a large portion of a country, of a continent. You're going to have this piece of a continent that's going to be yours. You can have it. We're going to facilitate, you know, we're going to just funnel money into it. We're going to build up the infrastructure. We're going to do all that. The only thing we ask is that, you know, you people actually, you know, do some sort of work on maintaining things and you know, take some pride in your shit. And he was like, no, I don't want that one. I want Palestine. He was not interested in the Jewish homeland in Africa, as his focus was primarily on Palestine and its surrounding area. Wait. I thought the whole problem started in 1948 with the Nakba. I thought there wasn't any issue, just like Palestine didn't exist. However, everything changed after the Kishinev pogrom, in which he redoubled his efforts to secure a Jewish homeland. This must have been a real bad one, right? The Kishinev pogrom. Or Kishinev massacre was an anti-Jewish riot that took place in Kishinev, modern-day Moldavia, then the capital of the Bessarabia Governorate in the Russian Empire. On April 19th through the 21st, 1903, or if you're using the OS system, it's April 6th through the 8th. During the pogrom, which began on Easter Day, between 40 and 49 Jays were killed. 92 were gravely injured, over 500 were lightly injured, and 1,500 homes were damaged. Boy, those are some nice round figures. American Jays began a large-scale organized financial help and assistance in immigration. The incident focused worldwide attention on the persecution of Jays within the Russian Empire and led Theodore Herzl to propose the Uganda scheme as a temporary refuge for the Jays. A second pogrom erupted in the city in October 1905. So, you know, it literally comes down to a narrative we're given. And because of this narrative that says between 40 and 49, which is such a weird thing to say, between 40 and 49, what, we still don't know? After all this time, we still don't know exactly how many people? We know all these other details, but just like October 7th, you know, where no Israelis died and none were taken hostage, the claim is that currently, it was around 1,400, then it was around 1,200, then it was around 1,100, then it was around 1,200, and it hovered between around or about 1,200 and 1,100 for the longest time. The last time I looked, the claim was 1,139 people in Israel died on October 7th. That does not mean Israelis died. That means people in Israel. And if they were Israelis, they would have been considered as such. Eric likes his dudes with shorter hair, apparently. He likes his dudes with short hair, and he's fantasizing about smelling my breath. Being close enough to me to smell my breath. And just look at this. Look, there are just these same characters who are just desperately trying. Please stop reading this official account of our history. Please stop talking about these things. You're stupid. Your hair's dumb. You're smelly. I don't like. Please stop talking. I have nothing else going. It's Sunday morning, and I have nothing else going on in my life. So I'm going to sit here and cry about what you're doing. Who thinks that makes sense? Are you telling me that every other time before he got here, this is just what Eric did? Sunday mornings, he just found some random page where somebody was talking about killing pedos and overthrowing the Jays that control the narrative. And he just, I want to talk shit to you. That's his thing. That's pretty sad. Leopold Greenberg acted as Herzl's main representative in the negotiations, and together they hoped to gain the de facto diplomatic recognition from Great Britain, making the proposal's political value immense. Despite East Africa's lack of moral and historical significance to Jews, this East Africa plan held the most promise compared to the other plans. So again, because between 40 and 49 of them were supposedly killed in this thing, and 500 lightly injured, they were to be given their own huge plot in Africa, where they were just going to say, fuck whoever lives there, we're going to take that. Because they are so much more important than anyone else is. They're literally doing the same thing to the Palestinians, and nobody's like, hey, we should give the Palestinians a huge plot of land in East Africa. I love the cicadas. Think about how just fucking insane that is. Who's like, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I would do. That's what the fuck I would do. Despite Africa's lag, Greenberg successfully obtained a letter from the Foreign Office expressing the British government's willingness to establish a Jewish colony with considerable land, local autonomy, and religious and domestic freedom under its general control. For what? Like, what is the justification for this? Why are these people so much more important than anyone else is? Because nobody else gets anything close to this. And if you pay attention to the way the world is working right now, you can see that this hasn't changed. If anything, it's just gotten stronger. They're just more open and obvious about it at this point. But for all of you that think this thing just all started on October 7th, well, no, clearly it goes a lot further than that. And when you think that they were offered their own place, they were offered this beautiful plot in Africa, you know, it was going to be given to them, and they didn't take it because they wanted Palestine instead. And because it was too much work. It's just shocking. It's like, again, there's a reason why you don't know this. Uh-oh. We have Paul flying the fucking pedo flag. Paul needs to go. Bye, Paul. Don't fly the pedo flag if you want to stick around here. We don't have time for the pedo flag. You can say whatever you want. As soon as you start doing pedo codes and pedo flags and shit, there's no sympathy for pedophilia. Let's see. Just a normal question. How do you think we should organize? I'm seriously asking. I'm interested in your opinion. I think I understand what you're saying. How do I think we should organize? You know what? I'm not the organizer type. I need somebody who's just as good as at doing what I do in different positions. I don't need to be spread thin trying to organize some sort of, thing. I'm the speaker. I do my part better than anyone else does. And if we can get somebody else that's as good or better than me, then obviously we let them do the same thing. But we don't have the speaker doing the organization. We just need to organize. This is one of the best tools that they've accidentally ever given us, is the ability for us to organize on something like this. The problem is the censorship. The problem is the interference. But this is what modern day grassroots is. Really makes you wonder how anything ever happened before the internet. Because communication and shit was so lacking, especially when you're talking about 1800s bullshit. Remember, during this whole thing, there's no phones. Damn it. There's no phones. There's no, main communications, nothing like that. That doesn't exist. So how was all of these communications, how were all these communications and whatnot being facilitated? We're talking about, darkest Africa and shit like that. Despite Greenberg successfully obtained a letter expressing the British government's willingness to establish a Jewish colony. In the 6th Zionist Congress, which took place in 1903 in Basel, Herzl presented the proposal, and the Congress voted in favor of sending a fact-finding group to Africa with 295 delegates in favor and 178 against. So again, we're talking about, it's 1903. Herzl is traveling all over the place. They have this get together. Think about all of the logistics involved in all of this. it's just such nonsense. You know, it really is. Like it's oh, it's the telegraph. Sure, the telegraph, because the telegraph was just everywhere. How did the telegraphs get everywhere? Like we accept these narratives we're given, but we never think about the logistics behind it. And the logistics, if these narratives are true, then logistics says we're not being told the truth about how capable we were back then. I mean, the Sixth Zionist Congress took place in Basel. I would be willing to bet that it was held in this gigantic, opulent building that we wouldn't be able to build today, let alone the people in 1903 built it. Here, let's do this. Sixth World Zionist Congress, held in Basel. Gotta love this. Herzl outside the Basel Synagogue on the eve of the first session. Got that top hat on. Like, think about how bad these people had to smell. They didn't have showers and shit, right? I'm trying to... It's so funny because you read these things and you see the same names pop up, things keep popping up. The first Zionist Congress was held in 1897. Was the inaugural Congress of the Zionist organization, held at the Stad Casino Basel. Here's the main concert hall of that building. Because, 1800s was capable of building amazing things. I'd love to, it belongs to the Stad Casino Gesellschaft. Music hall from 1876 with 1,500 seats is internationally renowned for its excellent acoustics. History. The founding members first met in hired premises on Rheinerschaft in 1808. Eventually, the society required its own building, and from 1820, the architect Melchior Berry worked on plans. The Stadtcasino Gesellschaft was officially established in 1824, and the original building at Steinberg was completed in 1826. Notable events held at the original building included the first Zionist Congress in 1897, up to the establishment of the State of Israel. The State of Israel. Why are they called the State of Israel? Can you imagine referring to, like, I'm from the state of the United States of America. I'm from the state of Canada. Have you ever heard anybody ever refer to any other country as a state before? And yet they always do it with Israel, almost like Israel is the 51st United States. They just hide it from us. That's like you make your way up to CEO of the company, and people are like, here's the CEO of blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, I'm just a manager. I'm just a manager. Yeah. Don't call me this. Don't call me the CEO. It's pretty fucking weird, man. Every country is a state. Yep, that's what you always hear of. I always hear about people saying the state of Paris or the state of France. the state of Spain, the state of Mexico, state of Canada. Like, this is where it just, you just, all of a sudden there are people in here who are gonna be like, no, that's it. Like this isn't even an argument. None of you can think of anything that's referred to as a state that's a country. That doesn't exist. The Congress was held a total of 10 times in the Steinenberg premises, more than any other city or venue in the world. In the late 1930s, because of financial difficulty, the original building was sold and a new building was erected. In what world does that make sense? How do you sell a building because it costs because of financial difficulties, and then erect a new building? Even to this day, they say that it costs more money to erect a new building than it does to completely, than it does to renovate a building, completely renovate it. And yet in the 1930s, and they sold the old building. What do you mean? Did they like pick up the old building and move it and then erect a new building? How does that work? And then we just jump to, from 2000, there was a project to build a new Stat Casino. Although an international competition was held for architects and a winning project by Zaha Hadid was announced, the voters of the canton of Basel-Stadt refused permission in 2007 to proceed with the new building. It was proposed to make structural alterations and extensions to the existing building. The modifications, based on a study by architects Herzog and Demiron, were carried out in 2016. And in 2020 was officially reopened. I love how there's like no pictures of it. It's really weird. Too bad you can't find any more about it, huh? I mean, it's just crazy. The delegates at the first Zionist Congress held in Basel, Switzerland, 1897. So all of these guys traveled from all over the country, all over the world, theoretically. All of these guys. How many people do you think are there? How many people in this picture? Who built the great hall that they're in? Look how big that is. And that looks a lot like the hall from the other picture. Same shape and everything. So all of these guys traveled to Basel, Switzerland. They parked their horses in the horse parking lot. They went in. They stayed in hotels, I would, and they got themselves in their Sunday best, because this is supposed to be a picture. Clearly this picture has been edited, but it's supposed to be a picture. They all came in, put on their Sunday best, then had this whole conference about how great they are. And then they got back on their horses and rode back to their little shacks that they lived in? Just think about how insane this is. This is the record. This is the narrative that you're supposed to be. You have to believe. 208 delegates from 17 countries and 26 press correspondents attended the event. Seriously. 17 countries? 17 countries sent 208 delegates to Basel, Switzerland. Think about, like, go in the house. Go in the house right now. Okay, well then stay outside. Anytime, any place. I will kick your ass, Jessica. I can hurt you, though. I'll put you in the hospital, girl. I'm the intergender champion. I beats up girls. I don't even fight boys. I just beat up girls. You're right. But you know how you guys are. You like that shit. I mean, it's like, I can't have the conversation with most of you, right? Because I'm trying to think on, like, it's weird. It's like a higher level, but I'm talking about the lowest level kind of shit, right? As far as conspiracies and all that go, all I want to know is the logistics of it. How did they facilitate the travel? 1897. How are 17 countries sending 208 representatives to Basel, Switzerland, surrounded by mountains and shit? Like, you have to go through mountains to get to Basel, Switzerland. That doesn't like trigger something in your head that's, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Or do you just, like, what do you, when I say, you know, picture 1897, what do you picture? The only way this makes sense is if there were, you know, a whole bunch of airships available to people. Airships would facilitate this kind of travel. But, you know, they showed you the Hindenburg, so you're like, ooh, airships. But this is just crazy. This narrative is just crazy. And this narrative repeats in so many different ways where, you know, like it's supposed to be just the way it was. And if you question it, you're some sort of weirdo. But the reality is, it don't make no sense. You know, anytime somebody chastises you for questioning something, it's because they can't answer it. You know, if it was just some simple thing that you're misunderstanding, then they would engage you. It wouldn't be an issue. Oh, that's a dumb question, but here, let me answer that for you. And yet to think that, you know, I mean, these guys look old. These are old Jays of all people. Oy vey, I've got to cross the mountains? What are you talking about? Like, there's just no way. We're not talking about historically, you know, athletic people. Historically capable people in a physical sense. It just seems so strange to me. Or maybe it's the topic. Like, again, so I'm so important that you want to watch me talk about other things? Like, how does that even make sense? If the topic isn't good for you, then you should probably just bounce. Makes sense, right? Nobody's making anyone be here, and yet they always act like that's the case. Like they're forced to be here. They want me to be talking about something else. It's fucking silly. It was convened and chaired by Theodor Herzl, the founder of the modern Zionist movement. The Congress formulated a Zionist platform known as the Basel Program and founded the Zionist organization. Again, think about this. Like, what are the logistics of facilitating this meeting? So first, Herzl has to figure out which place they're going to use, and apparently this place was. I mean, why you would choose Basel, Switzerland in this one particular building, who knows? But he has to then, he has a list of all of these different delegates from all over the world, from 17 different countries. He has not just a list, but their addresses. Is he like, Betty, can you get me the addresses of all of the delegates from these 17 countries? Yes, Mr. Germerstein. Yes, Mr. Herzl. Like, just think about it. Just that. So then he has to send the message to all of these people, which who knows how long it's going to take to get there. I would assume it's not like modern day mail, but what do I know? I'm stupid. But then these guys have to RSVP to let them know to prepare for their, yes, I'll be there, blah, blah, blah. But but now they have to plan for this trip. How long is this trip going to take? How many days are going to be spent in Basel, Switzerland? Again, do they ride up and they park their horse in the horse parking lot? When they stay the night in the hotel, where do the horses stay? To facilitate journeys like that back then with horses on wooden wheels traveling through, like, hopefully it doesn't rain for anybody traveling there. But they have to then block out however many weeks it's going to take to get to the place, however long they're there, and then however many weeks it's going to take for them to get home. And while they're gone, somebody has to then watch their stuff. If they're delegates of some sort, I would imagine they have some sort of important job. That all has to be, facilitated. I mean, think about it. From what I believe 1897 looks like, that seems like a pretty difficult task. That seems like one hell of an undertaking to be able to facilitate 208 delegates from 17 countries to all meet in Basel, Switzerland. At least they did it in August, so it's not like it's wintertime. But it's just such a strange, you know, it's not the history that you've been given. 1890s, we're still like cowboys and Indians and shit, right? Just think about how difficult that would be to do, to facilitate, to coordinate the whole thing, just getting all of the messages out to people, and then getting all of those messages back. Just the communications aspect of it all. That seems like that's a lot. The conference was covered by the international press, making a significant impression. Mountain Jewish delegates with Herzl at the first Zionist conference. They look like good people. They look very nice. It's always interesting how everybody's always dressed like it's freezing. Oh, This is the Strat Casino where the Congress took place. This is supposed to be a picture of it. So this is you know, yeah, this is what these people, the horses and wagons, who again always look like it's super cold outside. They were capable of building this, and you can see that the buildings actually go into the ground. They don't go with the ground, they go into the ground. Because that's what you did. You just built buildings down into the ground. You built them with big grand pillars on them. And who's to say when this building was, wasn't this built in, when they say the 1830s or some shit? Early 18s? That's what they were capable of building. Yet they had dirt roads, you know. In 1897, power tools had just been given to us by 2 years. The first Congress was convened by Theodore Herzl as a symbolic parliament for the small minority of Jewry in agreement with the implementation of Zionist goals. I mean, just think about this. This is such a small minority of people. To this day, they only make up 0.183% of the world's population. In 1890, whatever, you know, how were they even doing these exchanges of ideas, especially when they're supposed to be the most, you know, persecuted people in the world? How is this still prolificating, you know, to the point where they're trying to be given a portion of Africa just to keep them happy until they can take over Palestine? It's definitely not in place of Palestine. It's until they can take it over. I mean, at the end of the day, that you either question the historical narrative or you don't. Like I at this point, if you see castles in Mont Saint Michel, go look up Mont Saint Michel. I'll look it up after this, but go look up Mont Saint Michel. I'll do it now. Fuck it. Mont Saint Michel. This place. This place. This fucking place. This fucking place. This is what it looks like from the sky. So who built that? Just in case, here's a view with a little chemtrail in there, just so you don't get any sort of confused about things. Oh, here's another view of it. Must be, this is low tide. And then this is the shape of it, of course. And just think about all those walls around the thing with the water. That these walls that have to go down so far. Oh, just in case you wanted to see construction photos. Here you go. Somebody made a little model of things. That's the first one. That's the second one. Then they just built that. Then they just did that. Then it just went to that. What's so hard to figure out about this? Yeah, that's a view from inside of something. That's all stone. All those arches and all those pillars and all that. Probably solid pieces, you know. How that got put up like that? Don't ask. Don't you ask. Oh, here you go. Big tower with the golden shit on top. I wonder what the thing on the top looks like. All those golden rods for no reason. And that's their symbol. Are those salmon? Those kind of look like salmon. Mont Saint Michel is a tidal island in mainland. Tidal is a tidal island and mainland commune in Normandy, France. The island lies approximately 1 kilometer, 1/2 nautical mile off France's northwestern coast. At the mouth of the Causian River near Avranches, and is 7 hectares, 17 acres in area. The mainland part of the commune is 393 acres, or hectares, 971 acres in area, so that the total surface of the commune is 400 hectares, 990 acres. As of 2019, the island has a population of 29 people. That's a lot of place for 29 people to live. The commune's position on an island just a few hundred meters from land made it accessible at low tide to many pilgrims to its abbey, and defensible as the incoming tide stranded, drove off, or drowned threats on foot. The island remained unconquered during the 100 Years' War. A small garrison fended off a full attack by the English in 1433. Of course they did. Louis XI recognized the benefits of its natural defense and turned it into a prison. Of course they did. The narrative is the same thing throughout so many different historical accounts. At some point it was turned into a prison, then it was turned into a monastery. The abbey was used regularly as a prison during the Ancien regime. There's another butterfly. Mont Saint Michel and its surrounding bay were inscribed on the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. That means no access for you. In 1979 for its unique aesthetic and importance as a Catholic site. It was a prison, right? It is visited by more than 3 million people each year and is the most visited tourist attraction in France outside of Paris. Over 60 buildings within the commune are protected as historical monuments. And 29 people live there. That UNESCO designation is always fun. I don't want to read it, but the formation, let's see, the formation. Now a rocky tidal island, the mount occupied dry land in prehistoric times. As sea levels rose, erosion reshaped the coastal landscape, and several outcrops of granite emerged in the bay. Of course we know that shit. Having resisted the wear and tear of the ocean better than the surrounding rocks, because it did. These include Lemire, Mont-Dol, Tombeline, the island just to the north. Who gives a fuck? Mont Saint Michel consists of leucogranite, which solidified from an underground intrusion of molten magma about 525 million years ago. Not like 528 million years ago. 525 million years ago. During the Cambrian period, as one of the younger parts of the Mansilian granitic, I guess, batholith. Early studies of Mont Saint Michel by French geologists sometimes describe the leucogranite of the Mott as granulate, but this granitic meaning of granulate is now obsolete. The mount has a circumference of around 3,150 feet, and its highest point is 302 feet above sea level. The tides vary greatly. At roughly 14 meters, 46 feet between highest and lowest water marks. Fucking A, that's insane. That is a tremendous increase. "46 feet, 5-story building, basically. Popularly nicknamed Saint Michel, the Peril of the Sea, by medieval pilgrims making their way across the flats, the mount can still pose dangers for visitors who avoid the bridge and attempt the hazardous walk across the sands from the neighboring coast." Right, because it's not like tides are, you know, it's not like they're regular or anything. Tides come in and go out as fuck, who knows? You never can tell when the tide's gonna come in and go out. It's not like it's on clockwork or anything. Polarization and occasional flooding. Polarization. A polder is a low-lying tract of land that forms an artificial hydrological entity enclosed by embankments known as dikes. 3 types of polder are land reclaimed from a body of water such as a lake or the seabed, floodplains separated from the sea or the river by a dike, marshes separated from the surrounding water by a dike and subsequently drained. These are known as Kugs, especially in Germany. Satellite images of Noordoostpolder in the Netherlands. So, an ancient people did that. Right? It's the same people that made all the star forts and shit too. Look at the fucking precision that this shit has. So they just did that, huh? They just did that. That makes so much sense. Polarization and occasional flooding have created salt marsh meadows that were found to be ideally suited for grazing sheep, a local specialty that may be found on the menus of restaurants that depend on income from the many visitors to the mount. Oh, that's Agnew de Presale, salt meadow, salt marsh lamb. The connection between Mont Saint Michel and the mainland has changed over the centuries. Previously connected by tidal causeway, uncovered only at low tide, this was converted into a raised causeway in 1879, preventing the tide from scouring the silt around the mount. The coastal flats have been pulverized to create pasture land decreasing the distance between the shore and the island. And the Canusan River, Canusnan, I don't know, it's some French word, river has been canalized, reducing the dispersion of the flow of water. These factors have all encouraged silting up of the bay. So technically, back when this shit was built, it was actually further out. In June 2006, French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin and regional authorities announced a 200 million French money project, Project Mont Saint Michel, to build a hydraulic dam using the waters of the Causnan, and the tides to help remove the accumulated silt and make Mont Saint Michel an island again. The construction of the dam began in 2009. The project included the removal of the causeway and its visitor car park. Since April 2012, the new car park on the mainland has been located a mile and a half from the island. Visitors can walk or use shuttles to cross the bridge. In 2014, the new bridge, blah, blah, okay. On rare occasions, tidal circumstances produce an extreme high super tide. The new bridge was completely submerged on March 21st, 2015 by the highest sea level, a once in 18-year occurrence as crowds gathered to snap photos. So we knew this shit was going to happen? To the day, we live on a ball spinning through space, spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, going around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. Our solar system is supposedly moving at around 100,000 miles per hour through the galaxy, which is traveling through the universe at anywhere between 1,000,000 and 1.5 million miles per hour. And yet, every 18 years, on one specific day, the waters just fill up so much that it becomes the super tide bullshit. That makes sense? How does that make sense? What the fuck? Oh, I was reading Mont Saint Michel, that's why. It's like, where did it go? All right. I just got to the history. All right. From the 18th century onward. That's what it starts with. Before the construction of the first monastic establishment in the 8th century, so that's the 900s. No, that's the 700s, my bad. 700s. This is in Europe. And I meant to do this one earlier today, but I got distracted by it. So, okay, that's the wrong one. All right, so it's making it difficult for me, so let's do this. Anu, A-N. Anu Domini. Okay. A-N-N-U Domini. Anu Domini. So this is something you need to understand. So you know how you think it's 2025 AD, and most of you think that AD stands for after death, right? You're wrong. AD stands for Anno Domini. Y'all gonna learn something today. The terms Anno Domini AD and before Christ BC are used when designating years in the Gregorian and Julian calendars. The term Anno Domini is medieval Latin and means in the year of the Lord, but is often presented using our Lord instead of the Lord. It's mispresented then. Taken from the full original phrase, Anno Domini Nostri Jesu Christi, which translates to in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ. The form BC is specific to English, and equivalent abbreviations are used in other languages. The Latin form, rarely used in English, is anti-Christum natum, ACN, or anti-Christian, anti-Christian, AC. So when you think about it like that, think about how difficult it would be to marry all of it together, to ensure that you have, when you're doing the historical account of something, to ensure that you have, it's all accurate. Like, to think about how history was even recorded. When you read more of this, and you think like there's so many variations, and there's so many different terms, and there's so many things that differ, to think that any sort of account of our history is accurate, it's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous to think like there was a previous recorded history, and then something like this happens, this change happens. So did all of the people that kept track of history at that time go back into the whatever archives existed, whatever internet they had back then, and make the change so that today, when we're talking about something that happened in BC, we know that it's accurately this time ago? Like, you just don't realize, like, you might think you're smart, but all you're doing is regurgitating stupidity. Gets better. This calendar era takes place as its epoch, the traditionally reckoned year of the conception or birth of Jesus. Years AD are counted forward since that epoch, and years BC are counted backwards from that point. There is no year 0 in this scheme. Thus, the year 1 AD 1 immediately follows the year 1 BC. Makes sense, right? So did Jesus exist in that one time? In that one little non-existent 0 year? The dating system was devised in 525 by Dionysius Exiguus, 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 but was not used widely until the 9th century. So another 200 years? No. 525 to the 9th century, that'd be 800. So 300 years? Just think about like what filing cabinets did they have back then to keep track of the idea that this random guy existed and came up with this whole thing. Modern scholars believe that the actual date of the birth of Jesus was about 5 BC. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. So Dionysius Exiguus, Dionysius the Humble, existed from 470 to 544. That's a long time. 74 years old, man. Back in that time was pretty old, right? His mom doesn't keep me in the basement. He was a 6th century Eastern Roman monk born in Scythia Minor. Scythia Minor. So we know when he was born. He was a member of a community of Scythian monks concentrated in Tomis, present-day Constanta, Romania, the major city of Scythia Minor. Dionysius is best known as the inventor of Anno Domini dating, which is used to number the years of both the Gregorian calendar and the Christianized Julian calendar. Almost all churches adopted his computus for the dates of Easter. From around the year 500 until his death, Dionysius lived in Rome at 122 East Olive Street. It was a 2-story colonial, really nice views. I mean, so stupid. He translated 401, not 400, 401 church canons from Greek into Latin, including the apostolic canons and the decrees of the First Council of Nicaea. That's interesting. First Council of Constantinople, Council of Chalcedon, I don't know, and the Council of Sardicia, and the collection of the decretals of the popes from Syracuse to Anastasis II. The Collections Canonum Dionysianae had great authority in the West, and they continue to guide church administrations. Continue to. Dionysius also wrote a treatise on elementary mathematics. Of course he did. The author of the continuation of Dionysius' Computus, writing in 616, described Dionysius as a most learned abbot of the city of Rome, and the venerable Betty, according to him, the honorific abbess, which could be applied to any monk, especially a senior or respected monk, and does not necessarily imply that Dionysius ever headed a monastery. Indeed, Dionysius' friend Cassiodorus stated in Institutiones that he was still an ordinary monk late in life. Yeah? Is that what it says? According to his friend and fellow student, who wrote all about him, Cassidorius, Dionysus, although by birth a Scythian, was in character a true Roman, most learned in both tongues, by which he meant Greek and Latin. He was also a thorough Catholic Christian and an accomplished scripturist. The use of such an ambiguous dated term as Scythian raises the suspicion that his contemporaries had difficulties classifying him, either from a lack of knowledge about him personally or about his native land, Scythia Minor. Almost like they just sort of made him up. Oh, look. Look, guys. Just normal planes were flying over my house. It's just normal. The planes they just decided to leave some streaks right in front of the sun. Just normal. Just normal. Like this is one of these things where it's interesting that this is yet another person who we basically reference every day of our lives. You know, every single day we're dealing with the date in some way, shape, or form. And the date is what it is specifically because of this guy. And yet none of you know who he is. By the 6th century, the term Scythian could mean an inhabitant of Scythia Minor or simply someone of the northeast of the Greco-Roman world centered on the Mediterranean. The term had a widely encompassing meaning devoid of clear ethnic attributes. So this is the part where they'll give you a bunch of details that don't actually matter or have anything, god damn it, anything to do with what we're talking about. But when you leave, I feel like I got a hair on my face. I'm fuzzy. When you leave this reading, you'll think, well, there was a lot of details, so it must have been true. Even the Scythian monk Johannes Maxentus, friend and companion of Dionysus, the two monks are Scythian by virtue of their geographical origin relative to Rome, just as Faustus of Rheims is a Gaul. Gaul. Like, again, what the fuck does this have to do with anything? The dubious assertion based on, I don't give a fuck about this bullshit. I want to know about him. It's like a whole paragraph about how, you know, this thing about the, you know, the Scythians, or if they were, or if they weren't. God damn it. God damn it, what the fuck is going on? Vilitalian, I don't know. Seems to have been a local. He was born in Scythia Minor. His father bore a Latin name, Patricius, while two of his sons had Thracian names, and one a Gothic name by the time of the Florentines. Yeah, see, this all has to do with the Scythians. It has nothing to do with Dionysus. Most likely Dionysus was also a local Thraco-Roman origin. Like, who gives a fuck? Dionysus translated Standard works from Greek into Latin, principally the life of Saint Pachomius, the instruction of Saint Proclus of Constantinople for the Armenians, the Dioptictico Hominis of Saint Gregory of Nyssa, and the history of the discovery of the head of Saint John the Baptist, written by Archimandrite Marcellos. Like, it's so weird to think, like, what the fuck? This is what he did? Again, he had, like, his little thatch roof hut that he lived in, that he got on his horse, and he rode down to the big marble structure that was existing at the time. And he just had these old works sitting around that he would just read, and then what? How would he translate it? What operation did he have set up to enable him to translate these ancient works into modern day, modern language as far as he was concerned? It's just such it's such a weird thing that when they give you this history and you're supposed to believe it or else you can get made fun of. But when you actually start, you stop and you think about like what they're telling you, it just doesn't. How? What references did he have? What library did he use? How was that library filled? How was that library lit? Was he inside the darkest, deepest corners of the library with a fucking candle, like looking at the books? It's all so stupid. The translation of Saint Cyril of Alexandria's synodical letter against Nestorius, and some other works long attributed to Dionysius are now acknowledged to be earlier and assigned to Marius Mercator. Oh, of course. So, Anno Domini. Dionysius is best known as the inventor of Anno Domini dating, which is used to number the years of both the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar. He used it to identify the several Easters in his Easter table, but did not use it to date any historical event. So it's going to be interesting how they present this to us. I wanted, because you heard earlier all that nonsense detail that I either read or skipped over. Now, the meat and potatoes of how he came up with this. How did he do this? Apparently, he only used it to date Easters in his Easter table, but not any specific date or historical event. So how did he calculate that it was 525? What did he base this on? Which also leads into another question that, considering, this guy is in what is considered to be Europe. Here comes your buddy. Don't take her anywhere. You know how long it takes to get the smell out of the car? It smells like wet frog. You're not getting in the car. I do. I don't want my car all stank. It's gonna smell like wet frogs. It's not my fault.
I just wanted to tell you about the dog down there.
What's going on?
So, you know what happened that day? The police came.
He used it to identify several Easter, right? So how did he come up with it? When he devised his table, Julian calendar years were identified by naming the consuls who held office that year. He himself stated that the present year was the consulship of Probus Jr., which he also stated was 525 years, quote, since the incarnation of our Lord Jesus Christ. Based on what? Like what do you base this on? 525 years, to have the concept of 525 years. And like I say, the concept of zero didn't exist in European society until supposedly 1100 to 1300. So how do you have a concept of, how do you have a proper dating system when you don't have a concept of zero? How he arrived at that number is unknown, but there's evidence of the system he applied. He invented a new system of numbering years to replace the Diocletian years that had been used in an old Easter table because he did not wish to continue the memory of a tyrant who persecuted Christians. So again, it was whatever year it was according to the narrative. And he, based on unknown things, just decided that it was 525 years later. And it's unknown how he came to that conclusion. So then that means everything that comes after that. Like, how do we know when somebody talks about, the Maccabee Revolution in 232 BC? How do we know that it's accurate? We're basing our calendar today off of what some guy said. Maybe that's why maybe that's why the Jewish calendar says it's like the year 5000 or whatever. 5000 something or other. It's the craziest shit. Like it doesn't make any sense. Um, and to think like he wanted to change things because he didn't want to use a table, an old Easter table that continued the memory of a tyrant who persecuted Christians. So they changed the fucking date. So he changed the year that it was, and everybody was just like, okay, that sounds good. It has been suggested that he arranged the numbers so that leap years would be exactly divisible by 4, and that his new table would begin one Victorian cycle, i.e. 532 years after his new epoch. What? Just the concept of that. What would he be basing all of this on? How did he know that, what 300 years earlier was? What records was he using to collect, to compute that? And where were these records stored, and how did he have access to it? Like we have today's thought process where I just look it up on Wikipedia and I get that answer. But what did he use? When he was like, all right, this thing happened, okay, so this is 25 years before today, right? And then there's this event that happened 22 years before that, and then this happened 4 years. Like, how did he just come up with 525 years? That's huge. Evidence exists. This is where they're just telling you that it exists. They're not going to provide it to you, but evidence exists that Dionysus' desire to replace Diocletian years with a calendar based on the incarnation of Christ was to prevent people from believing the imminent end of the world. At the time, some believed that the second coming and the end of the world could occur 500 years after the birth of Jesus. Like Christians always do, always have, always will. This just goes to show you, all of you that think that like you're days away from Jesus coming back. Every single Christian has always believed that. And the current Anu Mundi calendar commenced with the creation of the world based on information in the Greek Septuagint. It was believed that, based on the Anu Mundi calendar, Jesus was born in the year 5,500 or 5,500 years after the world was created, with the year 6,000 of the Anu Mundi calendar marking the end of the world. Anu Mundi 6,000 circa, which is 500 AD, was thus equated with the second coming of Christ and the end of the world. I mean, that's the history. That's it. Then it's going to give you Easter tables. In 525, Dionysus prepared a table of 95 future dates of Easter, 532 through 626, and a set of rules, argumenta, explaining their calculation, computus. This followed a request by Pope John I, possibly influenced by the fact that the then current Victorian table gave an Easter date for 526 of April 19th, which was the 22nd day of the moon. What? Previous embarrassment. This table had given Saturday, April 24th, as the date of Greek Easter in 462 or 482. Oh man, that is embarrassing. Note well that only the first 9 arguments are by Dionysus. Arguments 10 to 16, as well as the second paragraphs of 3 and 4, and the third paragraph of 9 are later interpolations. Of what? Arguments 11 and 12 imply that these were interpolated in the year 675, shortly before Bede. Dionysus also introduced his table and arguments via a letter to a bishop, Petronius, also written in 525, and added another explanatory letter written in 526. And those letters were just kept in the archives of Forever Time? For real? These works in volume 67 of the 217 volume Patrologia Latina also include a letter from Bishop Proterius of Alexander to Pope Leo, written before 457. Though not named by Dionysus, this collection was recently called his Liber de Peshet, Book on Easter by Audet. Like, this is just stupid. It's just such confusing, seemingly purposefully confusing nonsense. Dionysus ignored the existing table used by the Patriarch of Rome, which was prepared in 457 by Victorius of Aquitaine, complaining that it did not obey Alexandrian principles without actually acknowledging their existence. To be sure that his own table was correct, he simply extended a table prepared in Alexandria that had circulated in the West in Latin, but was never used in the West to determine the date of Easter. However, a variant of it was used by the Byzantine Empire in Greek. The Latin table was prepared by a subordinate of Bishop Cyril of Alexander shortly before Cyril's death in 444. It covered a period of 95 or 5 decennovenal 19-year cycles, with years dated in the Diocletian era, whose first year was 285, the modern historical year in progress at Easter. Diocletian years were advantageous because their division by 19 yielded a remainder equal to the year of the decennovenal cycle, 1 through 19. What the actual fuck? Ultimately, Dionysus's Easter table, meanwhile, extended from the years 532 to 626 to the years 532 extended from the years 532 to 626 to the years 532 to 721, must have been adopted at Rome and also arrived in Britain and Ireland, where, however, in both cases, certainly not before the second quarter of the 7th century. Victorious of Antiquine's Aquitane's lunar limits, 16 through 22, were gradually replaced with Dionysus's lunar limits, 15 through 21. Only then the discord between the churches of Rome and Alexandria regarding the correct date for the celebration of Easter came to an end, and only from then both these authoritative churches used identical tables and hence observed Easter on the same day. And you want to think you're an atheist, right? What year do you think it is? Wow, this is so fucking crazy. Oh man, I can't even begin to read all this today. I'll have to do the rest tomorrow. I'm exhausted. You have no idea what this takes out of me. You have no idea how much pain I'm in for the rest of the fucking day after doing this. But it's like, either I'm gonna read it myself and just learn something, or I'm gonna read it on here and help you guys learn something too. You know? It just is what it is. So, as always, I'm going to leave you with a link to the free music, www.the-bilderberg.group.com. It's free. Go download it. All we ask is that you share it with someone. Click download. It'll ask you how much you want to pay. You can donate, which we greatly appreciate. Or you can just click 0 and it's free. Just share it with someone. There's going to be a link to Hollywoodism, the greatest movie ever made. And actually somebody commented on previous videos saying, hey, I watched that and yeah, it's eye-opening, blah, blah, blah. Wish that person would have been here. But I should have reset this a long time ago. I just didn't feel like it. Anyway, go get the free download. Go watch, Jesus Christ. Go watch Hollywoodism. And there'll be three links to music videos on Facebook. Go check those out. Go share them with people. Do something to help out, man. Don't just hide. Be smart. Be strong. You know, learn what they want you to learn. That's what we're doing here. You guys know who Dionysus is. You didn't know who Dionysus is before this. But we really need to look even more tomorrow because this is fucking crazy. This is crazy. Anyway, you have yourself a wonderful day. Most importantly, you pedophiles, you kill yourself.